Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we are back for another live stream of Hearthstone. Today is Friday, November 17th. We've probably got a decent amount of news and probably a lot to do here. Priest, Shaman, 5 victories with Priests. So I guess we can trade one thing out, so let's trade out the Shaman one. And then that means we're mostly going to be trying to focus on victories with the Priest here on the Americas server. No reason to play any more of that. That was a pain. So, custom Priest standard ranked play in. Might as well. Yep, I think that's where we're going to start. Make sure I have everything set up on the chat and everything. Okay, there we go. I think what I want to do, since this is Friday, is see if I can just go through the news quickly. That's what I've been doing for a while now. Pretty much we've gotten it down to the point where unless somebody actually comes on the chat, which is unlikely on a Friday, unless somebody else, there's some other reason, I pretty much just go through the news and then go to the silent post show, and I think that's exactly where I want to go right now, because while I do probably have a decent amount of news, Fridays are also the biggest hassle. Like, let's face it, all of these days are huge hassles. Maybe in some weird way I've lowered the amount of struggle by playing every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday instead of playing every 3 days, but it's only been by a small amount, really. It's still a lot of silent post show happening, which, if it does nothing else, which it does actually do other things, but showing people how much time I spend on the silent post show certainly explains the amount of work that goes into this game over other things. And there's a new Yu-Gi-Oh game that recently came out on Steam, so maybe I could get into that. I'd prefer to play Yu-Gi-Oh, but I know the audience isn't there. I know that would probably be totally crazy to do. Like, I might check out the Yu-Gi-Oh game. I'm just not gonna make it my new thing. Let's see. But I wish there was a way to speed this up. Maybe we could play somebody? Like, playing people, when people would come on and help me just get daily quests done, was very helpful for the couple weeks that was happening. Showing off people's decks is also more interesting than just playing random people. Yeah, that doesn't really do too much to play random people and struggle through it. First bit of news, Football Manager save files can't be carried over from year to year for technical and legal reasons. Even if we found a technical way to do it, this is the quote, from a legal perspective, it's nope. So if anybody likes the soccer game Football Manager, football to the rest of the world, they apparently are claiming
well played.
The club data, the information about the players, couldn't be carried over, which is not mean, that's not completely accurate, really, because you could trade some statistic or something that's not club data. Like, the names and likenesses of players, certainly, they have to license per game, and they don't want to relicense it, which means they're just negotiating a bad contract in the first place. We've seen this in other games, too, where games just go off Steam because they lose their music license after a certain time, which this is just ridiculous. Like, if I was running a business making a game, I'd say, look, we want the license in forever, and we're not going to negotiate for anything less than that. Like, we want this game to be available forever, and we want to be able to transfer the pertinent information forward. So at the very least, the old save files could give some form of score or apply random stats to new players that were attributed to old players that don't transfer forward. So say there was a famous soccer player, I don't know the name of any of them, in a previous game, but then they didn't get the license for his likeness or name in the next game. So what? Then you just have it apply to some random, like, made up character as it's transferred over. So here's the interesting news article, in the sense that I've managed somehow to be following the development of this game for at least a year. According to this article, it was announced in 2015. The game's called Shadowhand. It's an RPG card game about a 18th century highway woman, so lady robber.
I hope you like my
and it doesn't look terrible. It's always looked slightly interesting. It kind of looks like Regency Solitaire, because I believe it's made by the creators of Regency Solitaire, which is a game, or Regent Solitaire, maybe. Yeah. And so, honestly, that's all it looked like to begin with, but now I'm watching the trailer and there seems to be some slightly different changes to it, but for the most part it is still that same game of very specifically laid out patterns and piles of cards that you're trying to match. But there seems to be a fighting system, there seems to be an equipment system on top of it. So, just to be fair, like, I don't think it's a game for very many people. It's coming out in December. But if you like Regal Solitaire, if you like a solitaire matching game, it's not particularly like Klondike. It's more akin to, I don't know the name of that solitaire game. You can, if there's a 6 on the board, you can click a 7 or a 5 as long as it's 1 away from the 6. At least that's how Regency Solitaire worked. So I imagine that that's the same here. Let's see, double a minion's health. Now it's 2. Play that. I'm doing nothing here.
Well played.
So yeah, Shadowhand offers 180 levels spread across 20 chapters. So it seems like I know for a fact that the creator of this game watched my videos, a lot of them. I know he retweeted me, so it puts me in kind of this odd relationship where I'm one step closer to the video game creator than I am with most other video game creators, because I know this person retweeted me, I know this person watched my videos, and I would think that he probably took heed some of my suggestions about the story being a little bit more focused, and he certainly seems to have added things. So it's a good sequel, I imagine, or without having played it, I imagine he's going in a good direction to make the game a little bit more palatable, a little bit more interesting. If I recall correctly, there was like a husband and wife type team that made the Regency Solitaire. I imagine Shadowhand is just that same team. So it's something worth looking at if you want a solitaire game that's decent on Steam. If you have no interest in solitaire, though, honestly the game is a little tricky looking. It kind of gives you the impression that it's going to be something like Hand of Fate, and it's not like Hand of Fate. Boy, did I lose there. I totally blew that game. Apparently there's a company within Electronic Arts called EA Motive that's developing brand new action game with ideas no one has ever seen.
The light shall bring victory.
And it apparently has the scope for uncapped monetization, which I'm sure people at EA love that. Now, EA is also the company that just did Battlefront, the Battlefront debacle. Although I think this is probably a different department within EA, but clearly, whatever game EA announces, you at this point you should consider a game you never want to play. And it's just going to be awful. EA Battlefront has now, since I think I last talked about it, temporarily disabled all microtransactions, and they're going to wait probably until Christmas to get as many sales as possible and then turn them back on. Or, you know, it is also possible that they will wait till Christmas and then give it 6 months or even less until they shut down the servers and just cancel the game abruptly. Like Mass Effect Andromeda may have been an EA game too, but it would certainly be a possibility of something of a game like that. There's a game here called Family Jewels, which apparently is a game about kicking people in the groin. Let's watch the trailer. I've got to see this gameplay. I'm seeing some cartoon characters as the logo, and then as soon as the trailer started, it went to 3D characters, which already changes, like, it already makes it feel like a bait and switch to what. So I'm seeing a 3D character running around. Now I'm seeing a guy that's like 4 times larger than he should be. They seem to be mostly focused around the bowling alley. So there's security guards now in a picnic area, and one security guard is a lot bigger. It seems like a ridiculous, just dumb game where somebody merged some pre-made assets. There's apparently achievements. There's apparently some kind of Russian square. See, that's a real disappointment. And you're playing as a guy, but there's a girl on the front of it, and I thought, oh, this will be interesting if it's like this this multi-gendered game about kicking each other in the groin, because the misnomer is that it does not hurt women at all to be kicked in the groin, and it's like, yeah, it does. But I saw no women in that at all. It seems like you're playing a male character. It seems like there's barely 3 other characters in the game. Here's a screenshot of an office building. It seems like you're going to run around places. There's a grocery store. You know, the argument certainly could be made that any number of really old games were kicking people in the groin because the graphics were so low. If it was, yeah, if you kick somebody, who knows where it would hit. Let's do that. Do this. Do this. And let's do this. Do this. Yeah, and okay, finally, here's a female character, and there's a Donald Trump labeled Drump, D-R-U-M-P, and the female character is kicking him. And here's another female character running around an empty, detailless green area. It's an alpha on itch.io and it releases on Steam on November 20th. You know, like, there are some Japanese, what would you call them? Comedy shows, like, kind of like Jackass, but they are comedians that are usually doing it to themselves, like pulling pranks on each other, sometimes doing physical things to slightly hurt each other, but they get translated a lot of times over to the West without the understanding that the Japanese people see those people and go, oh, those are famous comedians, we know this is fake, and so people think it's real. And we see some of those on YouTube. I see them every now and then. It's like really violent things, or really gross things. Same thing where they're getting famous comedic women to do gross things, or famous women actresses to do gross things. And I thought when I first saw the description of this game that it was going to be something like that. It was going to be a zany, wacky comedy thing, something like the game There's Poop in My Soup, which on the face of it is stupid, but you know what you're getting. Man. Oh, I only get this when that one's healed. That sucks. And even with the thumbnail, the game is different. I know I've said that several times, but man, you have your thumbnail on your video making the game look completely different. That doesn't work. So I thought this was gonna be like, you know, a 2D, maybe even story based, maybe even like a visual novel based game where it was some crazy girl who wanted to be the best in the in like a special wrestling style of a special wrestling style of kicking people in the groin. and that was from which the comedy was going to come from. And that would just be like the running gag on a more well thought out game, but nope, that's not what it is. So yeah, I've spent a lot of time talking about Family Jewels for no reason, and that's a pretty decent name that to use for a game that looks just like a Unity asset flip and one of those fake games designed to sell only for the joke of it or for the achievements. Here's an interesting one. The Civilization 5 lead designer John Schaefer has left Paradox after 6 months. Now, you do not leave a job after 6 months unless it is really, really bad. Like, you just don't do that. Like, the only reason you stay for a job for 6 months is because 6 months will qualify you for like unemployment and maybe a few other things. Like, and not particularly, you would have still had to, as I understand unemployment, and sadly I do have a little bit of understanding of it, I think you have to have been working for the past 2 years, but you have to have also kept your current job for 6 months. But in the video game industry, that doesn't really mean anything, and that seems like that's very unlikely the case. So maybe he had a non-quit. I mean, you can't force somebody to work anywhere. So I don't know why you wouldn't quit earlier, but like, the split has been put down to creative differences. I bet they probably asked him to leave, and he quit instead of being fired, which is a mistake that people do in the professional higher ends anyways. Like, you don't want it coming out in the news if you're the lead designer of a game that you were fired. You just like so many people have had creative differences and left on production of movies. It's just, yeah, technically they were fired, but or everybody knows they were fired, but you do it with some grace and fashion.
You are not the boss of me.
So the thing I suppose we should ask is, what has John Schaefer done, and where do we think he'll go? Let's see. Let's go to his Wikipedia things. He's got a Wikipedia page. I was thinking about whether it would ever be, I'd ever get big enough to get my own Wikipedia page that didn't get deleted. And if there'd be anything interesting to say there, probably not. Let's see. He developed mods for Civ 3 while in high school, and became a beta tester for Civ 3 expansion pack Quest and Civilization 4. So he was very into Civ. And then he had designer for Civ 4's expansion Warlords and Beyond the Sword. Let's see. Got all these discard cards. Following the completion of Beyond the Sword, he was made the principal gameplay programmer for Civ 5. In 2011, he joined Stardock for an unannounced game project and assisted with the development of the Elemental series. In 2003, he announced that he left Stardock and founded Conifer Games. It was now developing a 4X title. A new 4X? Is that supposed to be a 4K title? All the gates? I don't know what a 4X title is. Discard that one. Darn it. In 2017, Schaefer joined Paradox Development Studio as the game director on an unannounced project, only to part ways in November of the same year, citing creative differences. Interesting. So, is Conifer Games still in business? Well, there isn't even a Wikipedia page for Conifer Games. Interesting. So he started his own business, and then he got hired by a company, and then he left his own business. That sounds to me like he's probably moonlighting and doing two jobs at the same time. I wonder. I can't really blame people for doing that, particularly if they need the money, but it is always a little weird. I guess I could have played this, couldn't I? Let's hit this one and then this one. Here's a Eurogamer review for Pokemon Ultra and Sun, Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. Apparently, it's very good, and that's nice to see. Like, I'll never play it, but it is nice to see that at the end of the day, the probable last, Pokemon game to be on the 3DS or new 3DS or whatever it is good. For instance, like the last Pokemon game on the Game Boy, I think actually was the last game at all, was Pokemon Yellow, and that's not a terrible Pokemon game. In fact, none of the Pokemon games, let's be honest, are terrible. Next bit of news, THQ Nordic acquires Biomutant developer Experiment 101. So THQ Nordic is just like buying back everybody that was in THQ. Like, I don't understand. Are they picking and choosing at all? Or is this simply a case of them just trying to get everybody? Yeah. Speaking of picking and choosing, though, I heard from I think The Know on YouTube, which I've started watching The Know, which they're, I suppose, decent enough, but I'll get tired of them quickly. At this rate, I'm getting tired of everybody rather quickly when all the video game news source. But anyways, they were saying that the 90 people that were laid off of Telltale, apparently somebody came in and was trying to turn the company around and improve anything, and so they're claiming that the 90 people who were laid off were the targeted troublemakers who were hurting the company from improving the engine. That kind of makes sense because they did list for a new engine programmer, and it seems like there were people, according to the story in management, that would make last-minute changes, last-minute story rewrites, and it would cause problems and force people to work harder than they should, just by being poor management. So, if you're telling me that 90 managers who were just causing everybody frustration got laid off, nearly 25% of their workforce, that sounds a little bit better. I mean, I can't believe honestly that they don't phrase all of layoffs like that and always say we're in a restructuring period and because of that we're going to lay off these people. Wow, I can actually win. So cautiously optimistic about the next few Telltale games. Like, maybe they've improved things. I was gonna go over all the options for the Golden Joystick Awards, but you know, the winners are already announced, so you apparently only had a couple days, it feels like, to announce them. A couple days the week before the United States celebrates Thanksgiving, where everybody's pretty busy. I've been pretty busy too, as the holidays are coming up, working on my RetroPie setup, and I was very close to being done, and then I realized I'd made a big mistake and now I've messed up a lot of things and have to go fix it again. Sadly, a Raspberry Pi 3 Model B, even overclocked to what I think is a reasonable amount, well, no, it's not overclocked, it's set, I think, right to the right frequency, or maybe even a little below the right frequency it should be. But it does, on a passive cooler, get hot if you're compiling a program from source, really using the GPU. That's not really an issue on the RetroPie though, because you're not really going to do that unless you install an experimental package, which it takes too long to do that anyways. So everything kind of works, except for Nintendo 64 runs like garbage. I had to go through, I had picked 80 games that I wanted to run, and then I went back and started running them, and like none of them ran right. Like, I barely was able to get 8 games that even ran moderately well. They all have visual glitches, they all have trouble. Oddly, Mario Kart is the one game that actually works. And there's a lot of settings, a lot of trickery needed to get it down. So yeah, everything except for Nintendo 64 up to the PlayStation 1 runs. That was kind of already known as a known issue, but the practical implementation of it and seeing that. There was also getting some of the old arcade games like Donkey Kong and Donkey Kong Jr. to work requires you to download sample audio files to get it to work. Otherwise half the audio doesn't play. Like Asteroids, I believe, like originally a black and white game, I was playing it and I'm like, oh, there's no audio here at all. Clearly they didn't put out a arcade cabinet somewhere that didn't play any audio. That's an impossibility. And yes, it eventually turned out to be true. And yeah, like Killer Instinct as an arcade game doesn't run, but that's fine. All the old things do. A lot of the Street Fighter games and hacks and mods of Street Fighter and different versions of it run fine, but they don't play too well because if you're playing them on like a Super NES or an Xbox controller, you're moving a lot of buttons that would be on an arcade stick into very awkward in different places. So there's a lot of configuration that you'd have to do, and just rethinking as far as how your system would work. Just do this, and then do this, and then do this, and then heal this. And how long have we been going? Well, yep. I'm gonna have to take a little bit of a break in between recording episodes too, and so I'm just gonna use my "will be right back." So I don't even really want to get into any long news. So we'll get back to the video game awards. A new Titan Quest expansion takes players into the realm of Norse gods. Interesting.
Is someone injured?
Sort of.
Right away.
Yeah, I don't even. Yeah. Yep, it's gonna be one of those days. So I think
One shot.
we're gonna just end here. Urgent need to go to the bathroom. I'll just say it out loud. So while I could have won this, I'm gonna have to concede, or I could leave it going. Yeah, let's just concede.
You have best.
I want to show off my scummy ways I play Hearthstone sometimes, where I just leave things going, which I do that a lot in the post shows. Just leave things going. Well, we almost went 45 minutes. That's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to friend or follow me on any social medias, there's a whole bunch of links down below. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.